Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mac Talk. Today, I was joined by Dr. Vincent Filak and Vladyslav Plyaka to discuss the AMP discipline here at UWO. I'm Dylan Przybylski. Let's get ready for a little small talk on Mac Talk. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to UWO AMP Professor Dr. Vincent Filak. Dr. Filak, thank you so much for joining us on Mac Talk.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Dylan.
Of course. And now, not very many schools have an AMP discipline. Can you talk a little bit about what AMP is?
Sure. AMP stands for Advertising, Multimedia Journalism, and Public Relations. Those are the three key areas in which a lot of our students find the ability to write and produce content for print and web-based media and to be able to work with professionals in those areas. And one of the things that we strive to teach is that everything we do is about trying to put tools in your toolbox, trying to put skills for you in a way that you can then use them across any one of those disciplines, whichever one is of most interest to you. So rather than siloing our disciplines like a lot of other places do, we kind of bring everybody together.
Yeah, and that creates for a really great environment. And you're best known for teaching more about the journalism aspect of AMP, specifically reporting. I know I've been in those 8 a.m. classes. So what inspired you to pursue a career in journalism?
Well, it started out when I was about 8 years old. I wanted to be a lawyer, and I spent every bit of my academic career working towards that. I got all the way out to my freshman year at UW-Madison, and they said, well, for pre-law, you have to take courses in a discipline that I will not name. But I took my first one of those and went, nope, not going to do it. So I went home for Christmas break, and I told my father, who spent the majority of his life working in a factory, that I wasn't going to be a lawyer, and I didn't know what was going to come next. Well, of course, he said, you got to find something with a job. And, well, I could write a little bit, and I liked writing, and it turned out that, he wanted to be able to see that there was something at the end of the road rather than me, writing haikus or something for, $5 to hand them out on the street corner. So he loved the newspaper. We had both newspapers in the house with the Journal and the Sentinel back in Milwaukee. So whenever he said, okay, so what's this journalism thing going to give you? I could say, well, you're reading it. And that was kind of how that started off.
Yeah, and I can relate to that a lot. Like when I was younger, I remember me and my dad would always read the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and then when the Packers won the Super Bowl, me and my brother would cut out all the pictures, and we would use glue and put them in a notebook, and we would have a whole spread of all of the pictures that were being posted that season of the teams. And I guess being that you've been to so many different places, how did you find your way to this program, specifically at Oshkosh?
Well, actually, it was a family decision more than anything else. I got my doctorate down in Missouri, graduated from there in 2003, and then I took a job being a professor and a student media advisor at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. It was a great program, very heavy investiture in media. Their claim to fame was that they were the only student newspaper to win Society of News Design's Best Designed Paper. They also put out a whole series of advertisements, billboards all around the interstate saying that we were the most award-winning college newspaper in the country. So it was a great place to work, great people. But my wife and I, we were there about 4 or 5 years. Our daughter was about 3, and Amy and I both had a lot of time with grandparents. She grew up in a building in Chicago where the top floor, I think, was her grandparents, and the middle floor was her parents. So there was always grandparents nearby. My grandparents were like a bike ride away, both sets. And our parents kind of asked to have that kind of opportunity. They said, please don't make us be the Christmas present in the mail, grandparents, and so we were looking for a way to come home back close to Wisconsin, and the job opened up. They were looking for somebody to teach media writing, and at the time it was the geography that made it really good for sure. It was about an hour and 40 minutes to Milwaukee, where my folks lived, and about an hour and 50 up to Pembine, where they lived up near just past Crivets. So that's what drew me here. But what's kept me here for the last 18 years really is the students and the ability to work with some really amazing people.
And do you want to talk a little bit about how that real world experience that you have in the field has transitioned for you becoming a mentor to teach students?
I don't know if I'm a mentor or a teacher. I just try to give people stuff that I think that they're going to need. I'm sure I've told the same stories too many times in a row for the students' liking. At a certain point, you teach somebody like you. I think I've had you for 3 or 4 classes. You're like, oh, here comes that story again. But I think what's important is that in a field where the outcomes matter, the output matters, your ability to functionally complete the tasks that are required of you. Just like here in RTF, I mean, we could talk for hours the history of radio or the theory of television, but that's not going to help you get live on the air or keep a show going. So in the field where I work, we've had to do things where you go out to the scene of an accident, you go out to the scene of a shooting, or you go out to the scene of a fire, and you learn how to manage that. You learn how to work with open records. You learn how to interview people in a way that gets them to reveal things to you that are important to your audience. And I think by doing a lot of that, both as a reporter and then as an editor in Columbia, and then kind of working with students as a student media advisor, I was able to kind of use that experience to help them see examples. And I think that helps them to understand, like, somebody else in your situation has done exactly this, so you can do it too. And I think that's the biggest thing it is.
Yeah, and those anecdotes from your classes and lectures, they stick with you. They really do. I mean, you've already used one here on the podcast with the adding tools to your toolbox. I've heard that one many times. So I guess, what does a typical pathway look like for a student that wants to get involved as a reporter?
I think the first thing that's important is that you have to want to do it. I've told students this before about their writing and about their reporting. I said, if you don't want to, it doesn't matter. I can give you all the skills in the world and help you, kind of hone your talents. But if you don't want to, it doesn't matter. The biggest thing, I think, is you got to kind of have a nosy gene in you, where somebody tells you something and you're like, ooh, I want to know more about that. Like, you get about 4 or 5 reporters together at a restaurant or something, and a fire truck goes flying by. Immediately the conversation stops and they all turn their heads and look at the fire truck and wonder where it's going and what's happening. So that's part of it. In terms of being successful in any of these fields, I think the key thing is practice. And that's why I'm a huge fan of student media, student organizations. So everything from Ad Club and PRSSA to the radio station, the TV station here, the Advanced Titan, I think is one of the best kind of learning labs you can have as somebody interested in doing some reporting. And also, in the classroom, I try to encourage students to think about an audience that might be in one of those areas, or even their newspaper back home or what have you, so that they can try to get some of that stuff out into the world and get it published. And that really, I think, inspires them to do a little bit more and, kind of keep going a little bit. But I'm a huge fan, and I will always profess the gospel of student media and student organizations. It's the one thing that made the difference in my life, and without it, I'd probably be a pretty good auto mechanic somewhere in Milwaukee.
And I guess we've spent a lot of time on the journalism aspect of AMP, but what does the public relations and advertising aspects have to offer to students?
I think in a lot of ways it's about the ability to effectively take information from someone who needs to get something explained, taking it, verifying it, clarifying it, and moving it along to an audience that needs to know it in a certain way. I think that's one of the universals of all the things. One of the things we talk about in every class I teach is audience centricity. The idea that instead of me feeling like I need to tell you something, it's I need to know who you are and what you need to know from me and in what way, so that way I can go about doing what I do. And I think in writing a number of the books that I have for textbooks, we interview a lot of professionals. And the funny thing about it is that almost every professional in that book, at least the one we use for media writing, has started out in one part of the field and then gone somewhere else. And what they tell me, bar none, is that their experiences and the skills they've picked up in kind of this amp-like field, you know, the ability to kind of write, report, interview, research, all those things, has transitioned very well for them. So, you know, people have started out in newspapers, they went into magazines, then maybe they went on air, maybe they went to PR. I've had some PR kids who ended up falling in love with broadcast and they go there. Advertising, marketing, and PR sometimes is all one pot, sometimes it's three separate fields, but it really does depend on you know, the organization you're working for. But I think that in every way that we do this, we're trying to treat every discipline equally. We're trying to showcase the similarities so that they can learn, and also then how to nuance those differences in a way that's effective for each of those areas. So I don't think that any one of them is better than the other, and I don't think any one of them is worse than the other. I think they're all capable of providing a very good opportunity for somebody to have a great career.
And one dying question that I have, and we're gonna kind of go back to like the writing portion of it, but what is the big difference between broadcast style and regular reporting slash like PR writing that you see?
One of the things, it's funny, I can always tell when I get somebody in one of my classes who started in broadcast and then came over to what would have been the traditional print style. I'm basically telling them, okay, everybody else I have to tell, cut down your sentences. You're writing like you're an English major trying to give me a treatise on Romeo and Juliet. Every broadcast kid, I'm like, okay, see these three sentences? You got to find a way to put them all together. A lot of it comes down to trying to tailor the content for the medium. So broadcast is about writing for the ear, whereas print and web and things along those lines and social media are usually about writing for the eye. And so all the communication that we do on the front end and on the back end is all based on that. So really the differences are about using the medium as effectively as it can be for the audience so that they get the most out of it. It's not better or worse, it's just different.
Well, that's awesome, and thank you for the insight. And right now we're going to take a quick break to spotlight all of the events that the School of Mac will be featuring in May. And when we come back, we'll be joined by AMP student Vlad Plyaka. Oh, God. Vlad Plyaka. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Mac Talk. I'm your host, Dylan Przybylski, and we're joined now by Vladyslav Plyaka. He's an AMP student and the incoming editor-in-chief of the school's newspaper, The Advanced Titan, for the next school year. Vlad, I'm always going to call you that because it's easier for me, but it's great to have you here today. And I know that you're an international student from Ukraine. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you ended up coming to UWO?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. And my story of coming to UWO is pretty long, so I'm going to try to keep it short. Initially, I started as an exchange student back in August 2022. I came to the US to Appleton, and I actually never chose to come to Wisconsin. It was Department of State who put me here. And obviously, I couldn't come back to Ukraine because of the Russia's invasion, and I tried to seek opportunities here in the area and around the United States. And UW Oshkosh was one of the places for me to go because they had actually AMP department because I wanted to pursue journalism since I was at really young age, and so that was a really nice choice for me.
And I know you are also dabble with political science as well. Do you want to share a little bit about that aspect of your life here at UWO?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually triple major now, so I'm doing both AMP, political science, and international studies with an emphasis in global conflict and human security. And I think the reason why I decided to have two more majors was because they just add extra to my journalism career for the future. And I also enjoy knowing more about politics, what's going on around the world. So it obviously helps my own intrinsic motivation as well as my future job.
And you did talk a little bit about how you wanted to be pursuing like journalism since you were a very young age. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that like moment happened for you?
Yeah. I think it started around the time of 2013 during the Revolution of Dignity. That was a major moment when Ukraine had revolution to take more over pro-European democratic pathway. And when this was happening, there was a journalist and he had frame for glasses was like thick black one, and he just looked the same one that I had. And so my mom once told me when I was like 8 years old, "Hey, you look the same as that guy." And then she said, "He's a journalist." And so then, since then, I really want to be a journalist. So that's how it started.
And speaking of being a journalist, you'll be the first ever international student to be editor-in-chief of the school newspaper. How has the AT helped you grow your skills in reporting?
Well, first of all, I'm really grateful that I have a chance to be the first ever international student and first ever Ukrainian to be editor-in-chief for the Advanced Titan at the university, because I feel a big pride of this, that I have this chance, and I'm really excited to take this position and see where I can lead the team and the people for the next year. And the Advanced Titan definitely taught me a lot in reporting, because you're getting an hands-on experience into reporting that should be done really fast, or you can write some investigative stories, whether things are happening in the community or on campus. And it requires a lot of skill, knowledge, and more importantly, practice. Every single production night, you're thinking of stories. What should we cover? What should we look at? Then you're looking how to write stories. Then you're also helping others. Well, maybe you should say this in this way to write this in a certain way to put a greater message, I should say, like how to make it just better. Yeah. And so like reporting just helps a lot because it's just an hands-on experience.
Yeah, and Dr. Filak can even attest to that, like the tools, he gives the students the tools to succeed. Do you want to share a little bit how you've seen students succeed not only in the classroom but also with the AT?
It's been a great thing to be able to see because I've worked with Vladyslav a number of times, probably more than you'd like, in terms of having to take classes with me. But, you know, it's interesting when you see them at the first stage in that introductory writing class, when they finally have the light bulb come on, when they're like, wait, I did it. I did the thing that I didn't think I could do. And then you start to watch them, you know, kind of do a little bit more and a little bit more. But the AT really does supercharge that. So you can always kind of tell when they get involved in the AT, they're kind of more engaged in the classroom. They're more interested in, you know, telling stories. And again, they get really into it and they get very excited about the ability to say, kind of look what I did and look what an impact it has on, you know, the community, the UW Oshkosh community. So it also is a great thrill for me because every time I pick up the paper, I start looking at bylines going, yep, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one. And it really is a thrill for me to see these folks do so well and inform the community the way they do.
Yeah, and talking a little bit about the community, do you both want to share different aspects on how and what the newspaper, the campus newspaper, means to the community of Oshkosh?
Well, the way I look at the press in general, and as an example of the advanced titan, is that even since founding fathers were talking that press is the fourth estate, that press is the watchdog of what's happening in the community, what's happening nationally. And that's how I see the advanced titan. We have a big role for the campus and for the community on how we report the events that are happening around, how we deliver stories to people. Are people getting more informed of what's happening right now? And that's, I feel like, the biggest value of what the advanced titan can offer to people, and also as an experience to students, most importantly, because students, anyone is welcome to the advanced titan. Everyone is welcome. You can be English major, political science, but I think that's the importance, that we are covering many stories and we deliver to people.
Yeah, and we cover a ton of stories. I can say we because I'm a part of the Advanced Titan. But some issues, they're heavy with campus news. Other issues, it's very heavy on community-based news. It's very important to find that balance. And do you want to share about how like the AT finds that balance from week to week?
Yeah. I mean, when you're trying to find balance of stories, you're basically looking. First of all, our audience would be students because we're the campus paper. However, when you see certain stories like, I mean, remember in Filak's localization stories, it's like you can take a bigger topic like tariffs. You know, tariffs can affect the things nationally, but how it's going to affect maybe businesses in Oshkosh. Then you have things with government shutdown. Oh, but it also can affect people here who are on certain programs that receive funding from the government. So how it also affects communities. And so you're basically looking what things can be covered on campus that are important for people here, but it also can be of interest for the community. In the same way, vice versa, what can be interesting for the people in the community that can be interesting to the students.
And I guess Dr. Filak, listening to Vladyslav talk now, how does it feel to see his growth in the program and see him become a leader?
He's always been that. I just got lucky enough to be along for the ride. So I'm very grateful for that. You know, a lot of times students will say, "You did a great thing by helping." I'm like, "No, I was just there for the ride. It was there all the time. My job is just to, keep you on the tracks." So, he was great to begin with. I just did a little shaping and polishing here and there.
Well, you still taught me a lot, let's be honest.
And Vlad, you've been very involved at UWO. You're a major part of Model UN. In addition, of course, the Advanced Titan. After you graduate, how do you plan on using the skills that you have learned and built here at UWO?
Well, first of all, UW Oshkosh offered me with a lot of opportunities that I was brave enough and persistent enough to take and just do as much as I possibly can. Like being part of Model UN, being the advanced titan, doing project management on campus, meeting around so many people will be beneficial for me in the future when I go into investigative journalism field, whether it's going to be in Ukraine or in some other European countries or maybe in the United States. Then my political science major can also help me with maybe my future ambitions as a politician. You never know.
And I guess we know you're now in Model UN. How has the relationship between journalism and Model UN kind of helped you with both aspects of that side of your life here?
First of all, definitely Model UN is different from the advanced titan in journalism. That's 100%. Because Model UN, you focus on things internationally. And Model UN UW Oshkosh has one of the strongest Model UN programs in the country because we just brought our 42nd the best award for like 42 years straight. And having that experience, just a different one compared to journalism. But what helped me both is to be taking the leadership roles for both teams, whether it's Advanced Titan and Model UN, because in this case I can learn from people in two drastic different fields, like learning politics, things happen internationally, and also things that happen on campus and the community. And all this stuff is definitely super beneficial for me, and I hope the things I learn from each team, I also try to share with many people, because it's not just me learning, it's also how much I can give to people and to the community that they can learn from me too.
Yeah. And that's going to do it for this episode of Mac Talk. Thank you both, Dr. Filak and Vlad, for joining us here today. They provided us with some interesting insight into the AMP discipline in the School of Mac and some added bonus Model UN information. So don't forget to pick up a copy of the Advanced Titan. It's sitting right here. This is the newest edition. It's out every Thursday on news racks around campus. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dylan Przybylski, and this has been Mac Talk.